On this edition of ITG, we catch up with Big Daddy, we look ahead to Ohio, and we make some Big 12 pick'ems. All of that and more on this episode of In the Gun.
You are now watching Believe.
ITG.
Special guest, Sean Big Daddy Merinar.
Handsome, tubby man of gold.
Mac and cheese, top 3 food for me all time.
Here with your gnarly news at noon, I'm Sean Merinar.
You've never met a mac and cheese slut like me.
You are In the Gun.
Because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
In the Gun, episode 268 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. I am Wes Uhler, as always, with the best teammates in the business. We got the signal caller, Jed Drenning, the barbecue, beer trucking, WVU legend, Big Owen Schmitt, and our A1 Day 1 here on this program, handsome, tubby, WVU Athletics video producer, man of gold, Sean Big Daddy Merinar. Big Daddy, welcome back to the program. Welcome to season 4 of In the Gun. Good Lord, that happened fast. And welcome back to 2.0 Rich Rodriguez era.
How about it? I can remember being out on this very deck, getting a phone call from Jed Drenning about starting this up years ago, and here we are. Thank you for the A1 Day 1. I appreciate it. I do feel like we may need to adjust now that you've had the big dog on, the guy that's actually coached 2 of the people that are full timers on this podcast. I was never important to begin with. Definitely bottom of the barrel at this point. And
Disagree.
After Owen gets done with me in a few minutes, I may never be invited back again.
That might happen. Stay tuned.
I'll take it easy, bud.
Sure.
Listen, Sean, there's not many people in this world that could usurp you from our pecking order. Okay, so don't you worry. But let's get right into well, first before we do that, a thank you to those who make this possible. I'm getting a little excited here. We got Big Daddy back in here. We got to hear the stories about this Owen hype video. But first, a thank you to the people who make this all possible. At Bet Online, we all know the game starts here. A big shout out to everyone at Toothman Ford, Team Toothman there, our guy JR. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. Toothman always at the forefront of supporting this podcast and supporting our student athletes, and we are always grateful for them. We are also in debt, as always, to our buddy Rick Lewis and the good people at Fortis. We got some fun stuff cooking up with them. Watch this space, but you already know for roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed, you got to visit fortis.us.com. To Johnston Equipment, Tim Johnston and the good people there on Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan. You can also visit them online at Johnston EQ. That's Johnston with a T, EQ.com. And new to the party, still exciting, still getting us fired up to have them in the fold here every single week. Of course, the Morgantown staple, the Book Exchange, all of your Mountaineer gear and WVU apparel at the Book Exchange, locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their 2 locations, downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com. And when you shop at bookexchangewv.com, make sure you use the promo code INTHEGUN20 for 20% off. That's right, Big Daddy. Get online, get you something nice, take 20% off on the ITG, guys.
Legitimate Book Exchange online shopper here. Have done it multiple times for the boys to get their
I know
stuff.
It's so far away from you.
It's not like I
2
see
miles
it from
down
our
the
house.
road.
Yeah.
All right, so Sean, listen, as Jed likes to add, right, disclaimer, the hardcore football talk, the X's and O's, the PhD in the weeds stuff is going to happen here in just a few minutes. But first, the people want to know, for those who haven't heard, if you watch this podcast, we talked about it a little bit. If you were in the stadium, you certainly saw it on Saturday. But the little hype video that is played after the intro video before kickoff, last year, if people remember, it was the Rasheed Marshall.
No, 2 years ago was Rasheed. Last year was Pac-Man.
That's right. Last year was Pac-Man. 2 years ago was Rasheed. And Sean, this is why I should just turn it over to you now.
Please.
This year, it's our very own barbecue and beer truck. How did this all happen? Peel back the curtain for us.
So I think around June, we were starting to talk about kickoff video because, we like to get stuff done ahead of time. July gets a little crazy. Chris O asked if we thought Owen would be a good idea. How could it not be? So I texted him. He was in fully, came up, shot with us. It was absolutely electric. I wish you guys could see the 90% that was left on the cutting room floor. O was putting on a big performance. And let's go ahead and get it out of the way now. I thought it went wonderful on Saturday. Great crowd interaction. It was perfect. It was wonderful. The video was correct. Things happen when you're editing. Sometimes text is correct. Okay. Everything was correct on Saturday. We had it really, really nailed down. A few days before, it was sent to Owen as like hey man, get ready. We know you're in town. This is going to be great. Owen, within 13 seconds of getting the text of the video, messaged our producer back and said my name spelled wrong. Now, for the record, even though I am the face of the non-football crowd and I'm the one here to speak of it and I helped produce the video, I did not edit it. It was not my fault. I would never do my man dirty like that. However, as the representative, this is where I'm just going to have to shut up and take it and cede the floor to Owen and just cry when I can.
This is like Sean's the poor PR guy that gets tossed out here to face the music.
The flogging
started a chain reaction in our group text thread. But go ahead, Owen. Yeah, that's right.
No, it was funny. I said Chris was all pumped to send it to me, and I was pumped to watch it, and my immediate text back actually was, "Hey, that video was badass, but you guys spelled my name wrong."
Notice how he says guy. Notice how he says again. Not here, but
well, listen. But here's the thing. This is the thing. Chris said, "Do you know how many people have watched this video?"
Yes, can't confirm.
Okay, which means this guy, he's on the bottom. He's on the bottom left of my screen. Okay, I know that guy watched the video. Okay,
good point.
So. Yes, I gotta give him a little bit of hell.
I can defend myself as much as I want. I watch simply for the content. I don't look at the graphics. I'm here to see what kind of cuts he did for Owen based on the shots I know we got, etc., etc. Owen does block his own name for most of the video, but yes, I'm gonna have to just eat it. A lot of people saw it. Nobody questioned it until the man himself was like, "Hey, wrong."
Well, there had to be wondering. You guys need to point out
for Saturday.
How was it spelled? It's people out there are wondering. They haven't seen it like we did.
Owen, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. Look, yes, I did cover up most of the text, which makes it even more funny because I was like, "Man, why did they even put it here? Because you can't see it anyways." But
Mike Schmidt's
it was
brother,
just funny because
the old D at the end of it.
Yes.
Yeah, the old DT, you know what I mean? The old, that's one way to spell it, you know what I mean? It was just funny, and we had a good kick of it. It was like, and then I immediately text Jed in the group, and I was like, man, it was like a Chiefs commercial, the old Chef's commercial.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
we were texting the 1990s.
That's an amazing job.
That looks great, but who are the chefs?
Yeah.
Need a Snickers? Yeah, there you go.
Again, correct in venue Saturday. That's all that matters. Correct in venue.
Absolutely. It was great.
It prompted some interesting conversations. Like I was having conversations when I'd mention this to people. They're like, here's the funny thing. They said, look, I bet 99% of all West Virginians who can fog a mirror know who Owen Schmidt is. What percentage know it's TT? And I stopped to think about it. I'm like, I've never given that much thought. I don't know the answer to that. I really don't know how many people would have caught that. I don't know.
That's
his name is on the wall in the football stadium multiple times.
It's everywhere. Yeah. And people buy things they don't pay attention to spelling all the time. Like, I'm an editor, so I'm trying to be objective about this, right? Like, if Joe Swan was
I'm the bad guy. Yeah, I'm the bad. Here's the villain. Ooh, I didn't actually do it, but I'm the one. Okay.
But hey, I'm telling you right now, the biggest nightmare in my life when I published my magazine used to be the 10 days when it went to press and I had to wait on it. I was terrified to receive that magazine in the mail because you could spend 6 months and you're still going to miss stuff. I mean, you could have 5 trained editing eyes on it. Like, I had professionals. I paid them like Joe Swan catches almost everything, and not even Joe could catch everything in a magazine. So it's easy to do, but I do wonder, like, I think most people know it's spelled SCHMITT, but I'll promise you there's some that don't or wouldn't notice. There's a difference between not knowing how it's spelled and not noticing when it's misspelled.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I really don't know the answer.
Absolutely. But Jed, I mean, Jed, to your point, okay, you were writing a magazine on, how many different athletes? Thousands? Or whatever. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
You had one job. You had one job.
In defense, real quick, in defense of Big Daddy. Now, I get what Big Daddy and I do is technically in the same sphere. I mean, it's like the principal is different from the teacher, is different from the administrator, but Big Daddy and I are in the same school. Baby. We're in the same school system together. When you are so hyper focused on projects and producing things like that, sometimes you get so pedantic, so focused on the minute details that you just miss the guy's name misspelled right in front of you.
Forest for the trees. It really is. You're so focused.
And I didn't get any of the pulled pork on Saturday. So guess what? Now, I still lose. There's the punishment. He had 18 pounds shoulder.
Big Daddy. The only way our tailgate could be any closer to the press box would be if they let us set up in the concourse. All right. So that's on you.
Now I will say, in defense of Owen, could not have been a better shoot. My man drove up from Greenbrier that morning, drove back that day. Chris O did take him to lunch, and they could have figured out the spelling there, but that's neither here nor there. He came up. I truly, truly wish everybody could see the outtakes and stuff that's on the cutting room floor, because like the video itself is amazing. There's obviously stuff we can't put in. O turned in one hell of a performance that day. We were straight early 90s WWF in that studio, just letting her rip.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And like, even watching the video again, like, obviously, you're always like critiquing yourself, just like on the podcast, like you rewatch it and you're like, oh man, I should have done this, whatever. But it was a lot of fun. And like, I just, now looking at it, was awesome because it was, this is the first game I took the family to. I was really stoked because I was like, hey man, there's something really special. I want you guys to be there for. And they were jacked and juiced about it, but it was a lot of fun, man. And I appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity. I mean, Sean, it's always fun working with you guys, and Chris O's, he's always been great. So, but it's just funny, and honestly, if it would have went to the game,
it would not have,
and that would have. But if it did, I'm just saying, you guys, there's a difference between me and there's a difference between other people that would have done it. I would have laughed it off and said, hey, I guess that's what I
Schmidt happens.
It happens,
baby. Hey, if you guys don't know Chris O, he keeps talking about Chris Austin. I always wonder, what's the appropriate pronunciation?
Austin.
Like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
So, like the town in Texas where Will Greer and David Shell stomped a mud hole in their boy's head.
When I started working with MSN, I bet I worked with Big Daddy and Chris O for 3 years before I realized they were two different people.
Yep.
It's like Chris O is Big Daddy's quiet brother.
That's why I grew the beard out. Legitimately, I wasn't on the job for a week, and we did Media Day 2010. And it was Noel Devine and Jock Sanders stopped us while we're doing headshots. And Noel just goes, yo, y'all brothers? Like, okay, I'm going to start growing a beard right now. That's what we're going to start doing.
He's the quiet one.
Yes. For those of you who have not seen the kickoff video yet, A, get to the stadium and see it. B, if you want to see even 20 years removed what it might have been like trying to play against Owen, you'll notice in the video, we keep cutting closer and closer and closer to his eyes, because even just reciting lines in the studio, he got the psycho look. And our camera guy, like, I'm elbowing him, like, Ross, you're getting this. We're in 4K, right? His eyes are some of the scariest stuff I've ever seen in my life. So just watch this video and know, like, we're here to get pumped up. And imagine that guy running at you and seeing that through the helmet. And
love it.
Thank you.
It was fantastic.
And I will say the charity goes to Sean and Chris, because they did coach me up through the lines. I just tried to recite the best I could. So it was a lot of fun.
Great talent day with Owen. Great talent day.
That's awesome. Some good people to be working with. While we're all giving Chris O shout outs. He was the first guy who ever gave me an internship or a job or an opportunity in this business. So how about that? He's clearly got a talent, or he's got an eye for talent. You know, when you see everybody assembled here. Sean, before we let you go, you know what? Despite all the excitement around a new entrance video and the return of the train in the entrance video as well too.
We didn't want to leak it, but man, we knew that train was going to work, and that was a good pop.
Despite the return of the train, despite the beer truck hype video, man, I think the thing that has people talking the most is a little Billy Squier, a little stroke me.
How about that?
Tell us how this all came about, how much you guys knew, how much it was planned, how much everything was just kind of organically coming together.
So, Owen, I don't know if you guys did this. Did you guys do the Beanie Bowl back in the day where a week before you would walk through the game as though it was game day?
Yeah.
So the Friday before, the 22nd, we had the Beanie Bowl where coach takes the team through, they do the entrance and everything. And so they were like, hey, we want to treat it like an actual game day. I was up top an hour and a half before. I'm playing music. I'm doing videos, getting the team accustomed to everything. I was over there the day before getting stuff together and organized, and I saw Reed Carrico and Chase Wilson in the linebacker room. So I poked my head in, see the boys, and I said, hey, I'm obviously playing music tomorrow. There's anything you guys kind of want or like just want to hear during warm-ups, let me know. I always ask the players and staff what they might want to hear. And Reed Carrico, Jed, you know this. He's just as even-keeled and flat as can be.
Can't smile.
Just dead. And I asked him that, and Chase was like, I have to think about that. And I looked over, and Reed's eyes got real wide. And he goes, the stroke. And I said, the stroke? He goes, the stroke. I said, Billy's stroke, man. He goes, yeah. I've never seen him like this. He was just nodding his head. He goes, dude, we do it for kickoffs, and everybody claps on the sidelines. It's crazy. I went, all right. And I grabbed it.
Say less.
The next day before we get up there, I'm down in the facility just kind of cruising around. And Raquel, coach's daughter, who really helps us with a lot of in-game stuff, we go over traditions and stuff like that. I said, hey, Raquel, I asked the guys yesterday. She was giving me other music to play. I said, I asked the guys the other day, and they said the stroke. She goes, I was going to talk to you about that. Every kickoff, every time we kick the ball, we play the stroke. I said, yes, ma'am, let's do it. And, we did it during the Beanie Bowl, and they're all clapping. We're like, hey, this kind of works. This is kind of nice. She had the idea to play the Chaz Michaels video from Blades of Glory. The first time we kick it off, let's play it to get everybody in.
Step aside, homeschool.
Yeah. Right? Like, okay, this could work. And watching the players do it, we knew some of the fans, you watch the players, coaches doing it, they're good. Nobody needed trained. If you go back and watch, when we played that video, it wasn't even to the part where he's like trying to get him to clap. People in the stands were already clapping. The players were looking around and doing too. Like, it was crazy. So again, I take zero credit for that. That was the staff. That was Coach Rod and Raquel wanting it to be done. Reed was the first one to tell me. Then Raquel gave us the official word, and it worked like gangbusters. So get ready, because that
makes it great
for a while.
Awesome. Reed Carrico, for those who don't know, Big Daddy, you hit it on. Reed Carrico makes Tom Landry look like Billy on the street. You know what I'm saying? It's like Reed Carrico doesn't react to anything. So the fact that it was him that did that, said that, that's great.
I went wide, and he just started the stroke. I'm like, all right, man, okay. Like, yeah, I guess this is just for you guys. And then when it was Raquel and everything, I saw the whole thing come together. I was like, oh wow, this is gonna hit.
You know what I gotta ask you? You're upstairs at home games. It's not like on the road. I prefer road games with Big Daddy next to me. I mean, then we can joke and compare notes and solve the world's problems. Home games, he's upstairs, so I don't see him as much. But this crossed my mind on the sidelines as Sweet Caroline played.
Yeah.
There's certain things you do within the program to let outsiders, we have 81 new faces, understand what your rivalry game against Pitt means, so they fully appreciate it. I don't care what you might say to them to try and convey the angst and the animus toward Pitt. All the information in the world, all the speeches in the world, all the little notes that you give them on the history of the rivalry can't compare to that 3 minutes that they experience in a game that has nothing to do with Pitt.
Not a
hearing
thing.
57,000 do what they did. And so, yeah.
I've said it this podcast before. That is the single most nerve-wracking thing that I do. I get triple secret confirmation from everybody right before we go into it. And I'm talking like I need Big Dog Ren to be like, yes, you're okay to play it. And then pressing play on that is the most like I'm always I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. The opening strains, just that da-na-na, and hearing the ripple that goes through the stadium of everybody just like, oh my God, is this actually happening? And just getting ready for it. And to Jed's point, I mean, I had to completely relearn the roster in the fall ball. I still don't know half of them. I'm still, road trips help with that. I do not know who it was, but there was a group out on the field. I can't remember if it was offense or defense, but there was one player, and I want to go back and watch and see who that was. There was one player who knew what was about to happen and was out there and was directing. And as it gets into the chorus, he's the only one I saw doing it. And he's looking around at the fans like, yeah, here we go. And the place, like you could see the sidelines and all the new people were like, oh man, here we go. Okay, this is something different.
Different. Awesome. It's different. Yeah.
Hey, thanks to you. Thanks to you, Big Daddy. My kids said the tagline the entire way home.
Good. Yep. Good. That's not thanks to me. That's thanks to Mountaineer Nation.
And to the point where we went over to their grandmother's house and she was like, "Oh no, that's just at the football game, boys. Okay, we gotta calm down on that."
At the stadium, honey.
Owen, I had to have the same conversation with my 3-year-old. I had to tell her still on Monday, 2 days later, you're only allowed to say that at the football stadium. That's it. You can't go into, and especially you guys know where I live. She's going to go into school and like one of her classmates is going to be wearing that gaudy Pitt script and she's going to go right up to him and be like, eat shit, Pitt.
We are an eat poop pit in the household. Eat poop pit, EPP. Clear. When we're at an event and you hear it, let her rip, big guy. You're allowed to say whatever you want when we're in the atmosphere.
It's a good conversation with your kids about how like different situations call for different demeanors. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's certain times it's all right to let it fly a little bit. You just got to be in the right setting around the right people.
So when we have our video board conference every summer, right? This year it was in Boston. It's NBA, NHL, NFL, CFL, minor leagues, colleges. We all get together. We have ceremonies at night. We have panels during the day, all that stuff. Our last night is our big gala. Okay, it's dress up, black tie, all that stuff. We do tributes to Hall of Famers and everything, and it went very long for very good reason, very applicable candidates. Coming out of it, Chris O is on the committee that helps run the award show. And one of our interns who graduated has an aunt that lives in Boston, so she was there helping along, okay? She texted me as the guy was finishing his speech and said, "You're not ready." So I'm looking around. I'm at a table with people from Stanford. Some of our really good friends from Virginia Tech are behind. They clear the stage, let it breathe for a moment, and Sweet Caroline starts playing. And Ali Marzo walks out on stage, starts throwing fireball shooters into the crowd, slams one, and we proceed to take over an entire 1,200-person venue screaming, "Eat shit, Pitt." As there was a table of NBA folks from Detroit, and I ran towards Ali. My voice didn't recover for a week because I was letting it rip. And they turned around like a bomb had just gone on behind them. And the Virginia Tech people were the only ones that were with us, hitting it alongside. So that was the one time I will say solidarity to the Hokies. But I'm telling you, like, do not play that song around anybody from West Virginia if you are not ready for the consequences.
Truth. True that.
No doubt. No doubt. As my buddies who went to Pitt, who were at my wedding at the Alumni Center on campus, would certainly recall from our reception. But that is a story for another day. Sean, thanks so much, man. This is always a lot of fun. We'll catch up with you, if not next week, certainly real soon. And enjoy yourself in Athens. But just one of you guys is somebody, like at some point, somebody in green's going to say something to you and be like, Sean, just hit him. Just try this one out for me, all right? Just tell him that if there's a Bobcat fan that talks trash to you or says something uncouth, just say, there's only one Athens that matters, and we're not in Greece. All right, just hit him with that one for me. Just one time. Just one time.
I want souvlaki and I want saganaki around me at all times to show them what it's really all about.
Exactly right.
Owen, we love you. We love you. We're so sorry. We love you.
Oh, buddy, I'm just playing. You got to give somebody some hell.
He hasn't shut up about it. I'm telling
there's a joke.
I tried to do the fun text on game day, like, "Hey, don't worry, the right one's in there. You were part of this." Like, all right, man, it was a joke. I'm sorry. I'm trying, like.
John, there is a joke in there about like how many times Owen hit himself in the head with his helmet. You guys just wanted to make sure he actually knew how to spell his last name still.
Sorry that we like to set up it. It's like the "Are you a robot" quiz. We were just checking to make sure Owen was good. Like, but yeah, sure, I'll put that guy.
He's not gonna know.
He's Big Daddy Merinar. And thank you for your time as always, Sean. We've got a break to get to, but when we return on the other side, it is X's and O's football talk time as we'll preview this trip to Athens and the MAC champions and what awaits with the Ohio Bobcats. We'll do all that when we return. You are in the gun.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
You're listening to Mountaineer Football Talk.
ITG. When the sun's just rising and the work won't wait, you need the equipment that works just as hard as you do. Johnson Equipment delivers power, performance, and reliability day in, day out. Whether you're plowing fields, hauling loads, or planting the future, our tractors are built to take it and then some. Strong, reliable, ready. 0% financing available for up to 84 months on select models.
Johnson Equipment, farming made easy.
Get all your Mountaineer gear in WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're the locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their 2 locations at downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com.
When shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter code INTHEGUN20 at checkout for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
Back in the gun here as we get ready for week number 2, opponent number 2, and it is the Ohio Bobcats. Mountaineers heading to Athens. And Jed, I've found myself these last couple of weeks, and I'm sure that this will continue, especially until we really get a grip on this team. We really get a beat on this team. I saw WVU's social media put out in a graphic on Wednesday that we had 66 first-time Mountaineers that played in that game Saturday against Robert Morris. It's going to take all of us some time to really get the pulse of this thing, get a beat on this thing, get a grip on what this team really is. So with that in mind, last week, this week, I did a lot of just listening to what Rich Rodriguez is talking about, because typically what the head coach is talking about is what's important. And man, Jed, this week, I don't care where you've listened to Rich, if it was on his coach's show with Tony Caridi that they do at Kegler's on Mondays, if it was in his press conference, if it was in the United Bank playbook that gets posted on all the WVU social media, he starts every Ohio conversation with their quarterback, Parker Navarro, and how good he thinks this kid is.
Which you must. It's kind of like he's a guy that I've watched just in various games a handful of times the last couple of years. I watched him in the bowl game because I was paying close attention to Rod Smith and those guys down at Jack State. After Rich left to come up here, they faced MAC champion Ohio U, Conference USA champion Jack State did. That's one of the things we're going to talk about. You have a couple WVU defenders who have faced this Bobcats offense with Parker Navarro running point before. Fred Perry has, Darian Lewis has. But that was one of the games you wanted to scrutinize. It's as close as you're going to get to a true look, even though it's not, because Rod called the game maybe a little differently than Rich does. And for that matter, the composition of the roster for Ohio is different on both sides of the ball than it was in that bowl game in large part. But I start with this. When I'm doing a deep dive and popping the hood on one of these matchups, I always look to coaching matchups, especially appreciating how thorough Zach Alley is in his history as a defensive play caller, even as a staff member. So one of the things that I noticed in that deep dive, in that look, was Zach Alley as the inside backers coach on the Boise staff in 2019. Now the D coordinator was Jeff Metting or Jeff Schmetting at Boise, but Zach was on the staff, and they did face a Hawaii team with an OC, Brian Smith, who was not just the head coach at Ohio now, but the OC as well. He was the OC last year. That's how he got the head job. So he was at Hawaii in 2019 as the OC. He spent a handful of years there when Zach was at Boise. So Zach's game planned against his style before. In that particular matchup, not that it matters, Boise won 31-10, and they held Hawaii to its lowest scoring and yardage output of the year. There's no doubt in my mind, understanding how Zach is, the reason I point this out, he's reaching out to old Boise buddies of his. There's no doubt in my mind. That's how he operates. Hey, anything I'm missing? I got my notes from that 2019 matchup against Hawaii. What am I missing? I know he does that. He vets everything. He's just that thorough. He leaves no stone unturned. So there is that piece to this matchup. But I do like a lot of what I have an appreciation for what Brian Smith does offensively and how he calls the game. They have some limitations. And I think he, as great play callers do, he protects those limitations and makes it difficult for you to get to them. So what I saw him doing against the Big Ten front seven in Rutgers, they were physically somewhat overmatched with their O line against that front seven, just going mano a mano. So he got creative. He moved the launch point with Parker Navarro. So he wasn't a sitting target. So Rutgers had to play somewhat of a guessing game when they were trying to pressure him. And for that matter, he dialed up the quick game quite a bit to get the ball out before they could get home. And as always, he was effective. It's difficult to find times he wasn't effective over the course of the last couple of years. And Zach Alley talked about that this week in his press conference. And one of the things he did was he pointed out the second half of that Jack State bowl game. Because if you remember the way that game unfolded, most people probably weren't paying attention, but Ohio jumped out to a 27-7 lead at the intermission. And then Jack's kind of slammed the brakes and made a comeback and it ended up 30-27. So they really, really slowed that Ohio U offense down in the second half. So I went and took a look at some of what they were doing, as Zach said he was doing. And the other game would be the regular season matchup against Miami. Miami did a good job of defending him. And there were some interesting things they did that I noticed in watching that tape. But the thing is, Miami had their way with them 30-10 in the regular season. And then the rematch, the Bobcats just absolutely blew the doors off Miami. So it didn't work a second time. So that's what you had to do to stay ahead of it. But I'm going to get into some of the things that I saw on tape. But it matters just as much. I want to throw it back to you guys and say, okay, where do you think West Virginia is defensively after what we did for the balance of 60 minutes against an overmatched opponent that we should have taken care of business against? We kind of handled our business. So what did you see? I don't care if it's just big picture or even if you want to talk about some of West Virginia's personnel, and then we'll get into some of the things I'm seeing with Ohio offensively.
Well, I mean, I think defensively, in last Saturday's matchup against RMU, I thought our defense did the fundamentals really well. I thought we played to the whistle. There was hats around the football, things that we discussed that have kind of been lost the last, 10 years, with our program. I thought we have a secondary now. Those guys come up and they'll fit the run, which in my mind was pleasant to see. And I just, you know, if you look at game stats, I want to say our middle linebacker was our leading tackler, which, you know,
good indication.
defensively we did the right thing and funneled it all where it needed to go. So, you know, I know it's different against a running quarterback, and this guy obviously can make plays. I think we just need to really win at the line of scrimmage and get pushed to make him have to do crazy things, and then we just have to really contain.
Yeah, contain's huge, and Jed talked about this. Actually, before he sent us some notes and stuff too to compare. But I mean, that's the one thing that jumped out to me when I rewatched the game. There was a couple of times where Rutgers just kind of got a little lost at times and kind of quit on the play in the back end, and then all of a sudden, boom, a big play happens. And with Navarro, it's a completely different ball game from what they saw last week. There was a few times where I thought Zach Tanner, the Robert Morris cornerback, had an opening to take off for a big, 10 to 12 yard run. Then all of a sudden, you'd see two defenders clash down on him, and that play got erased really quickly. Those things aren't going to probably happen as easily this week because Parker has a different gear to him. And as I was talking before here in the break too, he's just a backyard football player. Like every single time you think a play is broken down, he will sit there and try to like juke you out of the pocket, or juke you out of your cleats and stiff arm you. He'll do a shovel pass. Like he'll do everything he can to make a play happen. And that's one of the things I respect most about him is he, in some ways, he kind of will remind you in terms of his attitude, remind you of a Garrett Green in the way he just fights and finds ways to make plays happen. A little bit different player, but definitely has the extra gear like Gigi did. And it's going to be interesting to see how they fit the run game in this game, and also like Jed and Owen just said, that secondary's got to stay put. They can't bail on their assignment to come down and make a play. They got to trust the front seven.
Yeah, he's outstanding. I mean, I was watching that game against Rutgers last Thursday night, and that one goes down to the wire. They end up losing by 3, back and forth. If he plays okay, they lose by 2 or 3 touchdowns. I mean, he was the best player on the field and kept them in that game single-handedly.
I'll say this really quick too. Rutgers went for it 4th and 7 at the end of the game to make sure they didn't give the ball back to Parker.
Because they didn't want to give the ball back to Parker.
Exactly.
It's a great call.
If they go for it and don't get that, I guarantee, I don't want to guarantee, but I have a really good feeling they go down and win that game.
Somebody asked me in the third quarter of the game, Rutgers had a 4th and 2 from around their own 30, and they went for it. And somebody texted
240 yards passing.
Together, and they said, why'd they do that? I said, because if he doesn't, the game's over. It's literally over. I was tracking snap counts at that point. Rutgers was facing a 55-34 snap count deficit and in danger of punting it back. They were running on fumes. I remember Dana doing that in 2011 in the fourth quarter at South Florida from our own 27 on a 4th and 4. And people wondered. And I asked Dana, and he said, dude, look at our defense. We have nothing left in us. He said, I had no choice. That was how Schiano felt. But a couple things to consider here. First of all, I thought Brian Smith called a great game. Put Parker Navarro in some great positions. They got a talented NFL running back. Number 5's an NFL kid. They had to rebuild somewhat up front like most people. Now they have a weapon at slot that last year played on the perimeter. They had a War Daddy on the perimeter last year. He's gone. Okay, big-bodied War Daddy, physical kid. So they moved one of their perimeter guys into the slot with this Hendrickson kid, and he's a weapon. And that's one of the things Brian Smith was doing was resetting the table, moving him around. I noticed against Rutgers, they were using a lot more motion than they used at any point last year. And in part, that was because he was trying to create matchups for Hendrickson. And they did a good job of staying ahead of schedule against that Rutgers defense. They ended up 5 of 10 on third down, 6 of 11 on transition downs. And that was in part because they were staying ahead of schedule. I noticed on tape at one point, this is all about breaking or keeping contained. Rutgers spent all summer saying, we can't let this guy get outside. And he got outside. They spent all summer preaching that to their defense, and he still got outside. So at one point, I saw you had a DB, Kaj Sanders, had an angle on him, and he outran the angle on the perimeter. And what was fascinating to me is after I watched the tape, I heard Schiano in his post-game press conference talk about that play. And he said, Kaj Sanders can run, all right? It's not like he doesn't have speed. He has speed, and this kid outran his angle. So that's what's scary about it. Now, if you want to look at the positive, and I'm going to dive into some interesting things that I've looked at with Parker Navarro, who I really like, if you can't tell. It's going to take discipline, okay, to maintain the level of contain on the edge that you have to against this guy. It's everybody says that. Everybody that faces him preaches or sings the same song. You got to keep contained, you got to keep contained, you got to keep contained, and then boom, they don't keep contained. So when I think of Zach and his history, I talked about this in those breakdowns of his defense this summer. Some of the things that I saw happen against his defenses, they were profoundly disciplined. They would stay home on a reverse or a trap or a counter. Not just one guy, but sometimes three guys would stay home and be in position to make the play. That's the level of discipline it takes at full speed when things start flying around as fast as they do in an actual football game, because you're going to be impulsively when he pump fakes, you're going to want to leave your feet. You're done. You're dead in the water. When you think you got a sack, you're going to crash instead of keeping contained. You can't. Maintain that same discipline that Zach Alley's defense is maintained at pass stops to stop those reverses. That's the same kind of discipline this is going to take. Now, the slot kid, Chase Hendricks, again, he was on the perimeter last year. This was his first game in the slot. 9 catches, $115, huge difference maker for them. What he hasn't done in his career, and in part because he just moved to the slot, so let's be on high alert for this, he hasn't run the football. And I would imagine Brian Smith, being the creative type that he is going to want to find ways to get him touches. So stay on high alert for that. One more reason to keep the edges if they go jet sweeping with him. But they do a tremendous job of moving things around pre-snap to create matchups and isolation for him. So Parker Navarro, Rutgers liked to pressure him on 3rd and long. Once they did a couple times to get him behind the sticks, which they didn't often do, they pressured him. Now, what you noticed in watching tape, they did impact Navarro on the play unless he got outside the pocket. When they contained him, they impacted the play. He had to throw it away or it was incompletion. Now, whether he got outside by scramble or designed roll, they do this dash concept. Well, it's what we used to call dash, where you would do a straight drop back, invite the 5 techniques to crash, and then boom, you take off on a sprint action. And that's just to get a leverage angle on the defensive ends. They run that as well because they're trying to take advantage of his athleticism. Once again, hold the edge. He made a beautiful throw against a cover 2 concept. It was kind of an inverted smash route. For those listening that don't understand, a smash is basically it's a hook on the outside, a post corner by the slot, but in this case, they just reversed that, as you often see. It's still a high-low in that flat, and he made, it was a time capsule-worthy throw to beat that Rutgers safety. So he has precision. He can drop in a bucket. He's not just a guy running around. He's also a polished passer. This was into the boundary where you don't have a lot of space to work with that route concept, and he still made it happen. But the notes that I kept coming up with, keep contained, keep contained, keep contained. And if you do keep contained, you'll see a lot of throwaways, but not a lot of teams have had success in doing that. So one of the things you got to do, we like to chop up the front. We like to pre-snap move. If you're going to stunt or twist, think of the nature of a stunt or twist. You really got to be mindful of keeping the edge against a guy like this, because stunning means one of your guys is going to crash inside, another one's going to come outside and already lose leverage. So on the outside, you have to be mindful of that constantly. Just like Zach Alley said, when he gets outside, he's a top 5 quarterback in the country from outside the pocket. And they'll cue countering. They do different creative things to take advantage of his skill set. You'll see the center, who I don't think is a great player in space, but they pulled him because he was uncovered on a cue counter on 3rd and 2. Anytime you put the ball in his hands, it's going to be interesting with what he can do with it. You'll see him run option to the boundary, option to the field. That's one more thing you got to be ready to defend. But when you look at his scrambles, okay, we've talked in the past, we always said this about Garrett. There's 3 categories for scrambles. You scramble because you're pressured, you scramble because coverage holds up, or you scramble because you see a hole in the zone. When you break down his numbers last year, pressured, he averaged 6.7 yards per scramble. When he saw coverage, held up too long, almost 8 yards. When he saw a hole in the zone opportunity, almost 10 yards. All told, when he took off last year, it was 8.5 yards. Now, we talked about Rutgers. Understanding this going into the game didn't matter. 3 scrambles, 39 yards, 13 yards a clip. Now, let's get into some interesting metrics. When blitzed, and this is part of what Schuyler was talking about, but here's the deal. Quick game plays a role in this, okay? When blitzed, which last year was 27% of the time. First of all, he was a guy who sometimes put the football in harm's way. He threw 11 picks. He had 17 what PFF calls, Pro Football Focus calls turnover-worthy plays. It might not have been a turnover. It might not have been a pick. It might not have been a fumble, but it could have. Maybe you threw a bad pass that was dropped by a defender. Maybe you put the ball on the carpet and your offense recovered it. 17 turnover-worthy plays, which was tied for the most in the Mid-American Conference. Well, how's that happen? Okay, let's dissect it. When you blitzed him, didn't happen then. 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. Remember I said he had 17 turnover-worthy plays? He was blitzed on 27% of their snaps last year on his dropbacks. But only 3 of those 17 came when he was blitzed. Only 3 of those 17 came when he was blitzed. Rutgers blitzed him 38% of the time on his dropbacks. He answered by going 9 of 12, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Okay? Now, when not blitzed last year, so again, we'll discuss this further, but start with this. When he wasn't blitzed, which was the other 73% of the time, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 14 turnover-worthy plays. Now, that's not as simple as saying, well, just don't blitz him, because they'll go to the quick game and burn you. What you have to do is you have to lock down the quick game. You have to get hands in the air and start deflecting footballs, and then you have to get pressure. If you lock down the quick game, you have to shake him loose and then keep contained. That's when you can start forcing incompletions. That's when you can start forcing throwaways. That's when you can start impacting him as a football player. But again, I want you guys to comment on what we talked about so far. I'll close the offensive side of what I got after you do with some of the notes that I have from watching tape.
Yeah, I guess I would say in terms of West Virginia, I think this is going to be a game where you're really going to need Fred Perry to show up and have a big game, just like he did in the opener, be extremely active. And also Braden Siders. I think he's going to be a big part of helping setting that edge and making sure nothing gets too crazy on the outside in terms of Parker scrambling outside the pocket. So Fred Perry, Braden Siders, they're going to have huge parts of this, but I think it's also going to be with that defensive front. I mean, like you said, Jed, like when he's blitzed, typically, at least last week, and even some of the numbers you ran off there, he's going to find answers. So if the defensive front can get there and they don't have to send numbers as much, you still want to do it every now and then. But if they can get there with 4 or 5 guys, and it doesn't have to be a sack or anything, but if you can at least impact him, then it's going to definitely play a part in trying to slow his dual threat ability down. So the one thing I wanted to talk about too really quick is, and Jed pointed this out too, we actually saw eye to eye on this one. 2 botched snaps within, I believe it was the first 2 drives, Jed, of that game last week?
It was early, first quarter.
Or first quarter.
Yeah.
So 2 first quarter botched snaps by the center. Hammond Russell had 2 sacks last week. Pretty solid day. Yes, he was overmatching, but still, I think this is a big opportunity for them to maybe set the tone early, pressure the center to make a bad snap, and then all of a sudden you got those guys second guessing up front. So I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Alley kind of shows pressure, even if it's simulated pressure, early in the first quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Zach will have a good game plan with that. I think, like I said before too, definitely getting defensive line we have to create the space, right? We got to put the O-line on their heels. And I think another big thing too is when we do have shots on this quarterback, we got to take good shots, right? And what I mean is good, hard, good football tackles, right?
Like a Justin Harrington opening kickoff.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, make them feel it, dude. Make them feel it. You know, and that stuff gets old. I mean, you can scramble and dance around all you want, but I mean, when you start getting beat on a little bit, it gets old, right? And you start making bad decisions. So that's my biggest thing for the defense.
I think those are great calls by both of you guys. Give the center the yips early once again. Man, another multiple turnover, forcing type game from the defense would be massive. Holding that edge, as you guys have all alluded to, is certainly a storyline to keep an eye on. And I just think as well too, and I know it's like we do this all week. Like it's against Robert Morris, so competition considered. But I thought the offense did a great job of or the defense, pardon me, did a great job of winning on first and second down last week and forcing the offense into down and distance on third and more predictable situations on third down as well too. If they can keep that up, if you do it one time, that's great, right? You do it twice, it starts to become a trend. Win on first down and second down like you did in that home opener, and I think that's gonna go a long way against these guys as well.
Ran for 93 yards against Rutgers. 61 of those yards were after contact. Get hats to the football. He's slippery. It's tough to bring him down mano a mano, especially in space. Get hats to the football. 18 rushing touchdowns a year ago. He was a 1,000-yard rusher. Guys, 6 times a year ago, he ran for over 100 yards. He's legit. He had 34 missed tackles forced last year, which led the MAC among all positions. That's including running backs. He forced 34 missed tackles. He had 39% of the time he ran the football was a first down. He's a productive runner. He's an intelligent runner. We talk about what? We talk about Zach Alley, mitigating those 10 to 20-yard rhythm building plays of 10-plus yards. We did a great job of that against Robert Morris. You might give up a big play, a 40 or 50-yarder. All defenses often do. All defenses ultimately do. Just don't let them get in rhythm and cut you out with those 10 to 20 or those 10-plus yard runs. I bring that up because he led the MAC with 40 runs of 10-plus yards. Can't let that happen. Can't let that happen. Now, if you look at some of the things that, first of all, Miami of Ohio did against them, I told you they had success in the regular season. They jumped the quick game. They leveraged the football. They got hats at the football. They would run an even front concept with 2 backers in the middle, and they would drop a safety as a spy against the run. Zach did this 2 years ago against South Carolina in that game where they almost upset the Gamecocks at Jack State. And I've seen him do this other times. So this is one of the 10,000 looks that Zach Alley has unfurled before. So I'm sure he's watching the tape and he's thinking the same thing, or at least he's very mindful of that. Zach misses nothing. Okay. They would do different things. Oh, excuse me. They would do different things from an alignment standpoint, but the one thing that was consistent was they always maintained leverage on the perimeter. They didn't get outflanked, and they would always outnumber. If, for instance, if they were +1 in the box against Ohio U. So if Ohio U had 10 personnel, that's 4 wides, 1 back, no tight end, they would have 6 in the box. So they're +1 against the O-line. If they brought a tight end in offensively, if the Bobcats did, then what Miami would do, they'd have 7 defenders at or near the box, sometimes one of those defenders in an apex. But what you noticed is anytime Navarro headed toward the perimeter, one of those second-level defenders was always triggered immediately downhill to snuff it out. Immediately. So that's what Miami, Ohio did that I was noticing. Now, Rutgers ran a lot of odd front against him. Something to remember about this Rutgers defense. A year ago, they allowed last year 5.2 yards per carry in the Big Ten. That was last in the Big Ten. It was the worst rush defense in some respects in the Big Ten. So that needs baked into the equation as well. I talked about the window dressing that Ohio used against Rutgers. I thought they did a great job of that with the motion. They run a lot of pistol. Here's what makes that difficult. Sometimes when teams line up in the gun as often as they do, if you offset your back one way or the other, defenses can kick their front predicated on front side and backside runs by the alignment of the back. The pistol sometimes negates the ability to do that because there is no front side, backside. And they do run a lot of pistol. So that's something to think about as well. Here are the high snaps. You had multiple high and hard snaps. They were lucky to not have a turnover on one of those 2 snaps. Now, one of the things to notice When that happened, the center was covered with a shaded nose, and that center is a transfer from Dartmouth. So there's not a lot of continuity there. So he's snapping these shotgun snaps to a quarterback that he's still becoming accustomed to. And he was somewhat covered when he did that. Yes, we are a base even front quarters defense, but as we know, nobody's more versatile than Zach is. We run both even, we run odd. So something to keep an eye on for the snaps on Saturday, that center is covered. You talked about Hammond Russell. I mean, anybody on the interior of that defense could have an impactful day. So stay alert there. I like the running back, Bangura. I think he's a big physical kid, sometimes willing in pass pro. He does a good job of IDing things. You can tell he understands where his read key is. So it'll be fun to see if we can out on him, because I haven't seen that happen a lot. It's just sometimes he's in the moods of the fan, and sometimes he's not. It comes and goes. A couple times. Remember, this running back, Bangura, he was there for a couple years, then transferred to Minnesota, played sparingly, transferred back to Ohio. So he wasn't there last year. Okay. There were some issues in the quarterback running back exchange as well. So that's something to keep an eye on. The O-line lacked push, especially in short yardage situations on the inside zone when Rutgers knew it was coming. If they used window dressing or some smoke and mirrors, they effectively ran the football. But typically when Rutgers knew it was an obvious run situation, there wasn't a lot of push. When pressure Navarro came under control, you got to keep contained. That's one of the big things I walked away from this game and all the other games thinking. They had him sacked multiple times. He breaks free on a 3rd and long, scoots for a first down. Can't allow that to happen. Now he does sometimes, you'll see him telegraph his throws in the quick game. That's one more instance of defensively. If you don't get home, which often you won't, get your hands in the air, impact the play other ways. They took a shot play from the -9. I thought this was interesting. They caught Rutgers in a cover 0. And what happened was the left guard got pushed back into Navarro's lap. They still hit it for a cross-face completion. It was like a 26, 27-yard pickup. But if that left guard had held his ground, that was a 97-yard touchdown, because they had him smoked. So they will take their shots. I saw him outrun multiple defenders on the scrape, on the zone read. Again, we talked about the option, the run it to the field to the trip side. You saw cover 1. In other words, sometimes what would happen is they would run it to the boundary side. It wasn't as effective, but to the trip side of the field, they would veer it, option the unblocked edge defender. The offensive tackle would seal that backer, and boom, they got a chunk play. They did a nice job of executing that. We used to auto check this, Owen, when we saw any kind of 5-1 configuration, which was typically its man-free coverage. We would auto check speed option, and we would veer block it. You crashed down on the ace backer, that single inside backer, and you got the edge because your option of that unblocked defender on the edge. So it was a great play. But you'd see outside zone to the boundary. The running back would bounce it. Nice chunk. In other words, he's looking to decisively bounce that thing, get outside. He had the edge, did it. I'm not going to read through every note I have, but I was impressed with their scheme. I was impressed with their skill. And I was impressed with some of the things the way that they were working their offensive line. So that's how I would wrap up the offensive side of the football. But final thoughts from you guys on their offense, and we'll quickly go through their defense.
Yeah, I really like Bangura. He's a load, man. He's interesting. He's a power 4 player, in my opinion, and I like the way that they got their tight ends involved in that game too. I think both of them were pretty active. Williams had a touchdown, which was funny because I think the one touchdown he scored, he did kind of a Lambo leap, and I'm surprised they didn't get a flag for that. But they're
shovel pass to the tight end.
What's that?
The shovel pass to the tight end.
Oh,
in other
yeah.
words, here's what I like about it. When your plays are linked to use what a defense is going to try and do to defend you against it, that's a nice play call. So they know that teams are going to try and hold the edge and aggressively get outside to contain Navarro. So they showed sprint out action. Here goes the Rutgers defense flying that way, shovel pass underneath with the tight end coming back in. Oh, yeah, you want to try and hold the edge? Well, so anyway, I like that call too, little nugget with their tight end. But go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they did was kind of unpredictable. I mean, I watched it live kind of half-heartedly, but when I watched it back the second time, I was trying to guess what they were trying to do, and I couldn't really get a beat on it. I mean, it seemed like everything that they were doing, everything Rutgers was trying to do, Parker Navarro just had an answer for it every single time. And like you said, I respect him like crazy. I think he is one of the better quarterbacks, especially when he gets on the move. it's almost like he's one of those quarterbacks that's more comfortable throwing on the move than just standing in the pocket. I just that's just what I get from him. He's an athlete, and yeah, they're going to have
When he
their
does
hands
take
full.
off, one thing that stood out on film that I didn't mention, it's loaf of bread. His first handful of steps, Owen. I mean, you got a chance to swat that football. He doesn't secure it until he gets closer to traffic. So I do think there's an opportunity to, and maybe that's part what contributed to those 17 turnover worthy plays last year. But just a smart guy. I even saw him off RPO action. This is a tough thing to do for a quarterback. They had a boundary corner blitz, and I saw him read off the RPO and come back and throw to the void where the boundary corner was blitzing from. But what you got? Anything?
No, I mean, like I said, I think just as far as gameplay goes, we've obviously blew as much smoke up his hind end that we need to. He is a great player. There's no pun in that. I just think we really need to see ourselves do our job this week, and take care of business. And like I said, I think
he has an average game they can't win.
An average game, and like I said, the key for me is look. If you give this guy a couple shots, it's all good and fun having a running quarterback and a quarterback that's super athletic. And generally those guys are pretty tough guys. They can take shots, but when you start taking shots from big guys a lot, and you start taking shots on the elbows, the shoulders, the hips, it wears on you. So we'll really see, and I'm sure Zach has got a very beautiful game plan set up, and I'm looking forward to seeing just the small wrinkles. Right, he doesn't want to show too much. It's still early on, just the small stuff to see what he would do to create confusion.
I think that's also the beautiful part about it too, because as I mentioned last week on the preview, like you have all this excitement, all this anticipation about what it's going to look like, and yet we still really don't know. I mean, on both sides of the ball, we really don't know because of how overmatched last week was. So that secondary, it played extremely well. They really weren't tested. This week, they're going to be tested. The Hendricks kids is good. The tight ends are good. Ben Gore can catch the ball to the backfield if needed. So, they're going to have a lot of things to cover up. And I'm just excited to see what I don't know that we're going to find out the ceiling and the floor of each level of the defense this week, but we're going to get a pretty good barometer on where those guys are at.
Yeah, I think we are. And to Owen's point, when he's talking about getting shots on him. Look, you might look at the stat sheet and think, he only ran the ball 9 times. Well, that's not the point. That's the starting point with how many times you can hit him, right? It's like, look, there's so many shots that do not show up on the stat sheet. That's the entire point of it. Any D coordinator worth his salt can tell you that. I mean, the most vicious shots I ever took are on no stat sheet anywhere. Trust me. So, you can make him remember you were there. Whether it's an official rushing attempt or not. I mean, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to do that. And if we want to jump to the defensive side of the ball, one of the things that jumps out to me when you look at the composition of their defense, there was a lot of turnover. They were hit hard by the portal. I think they had a couple war daddies in that bowl game against Jack State that they lost to the portal. They had some playmakers that went. I mean, they were hit hard, just like everybody else was. They did a good job of replenishing what they've got. Look, this is a sturdy program, 31 wins, 3 years. They're not starting from scratch, especially with the centerpiece they have on offense. But defensively, I think depth is a concern. And that's one of the first things I turn to. So we go back to what we talked about against Robert Morris. But for those 4 fumbles in the first half, we could have put them away with the tempo much earlier. And this is a game where you need to do that. You can't have self-inflicted penalties, turnovers, silly mistakes that take away your opportunities to hurt the defense with your tempo early. I mean, you want to test their conditioning and test it early. Like when you look at a 2-deep of a football team like this, there's a lot of guys off these MAC schools. I mean, I think of Darian Lewis. I'm watching his Akron tape last year, all excited when he, declared in the portal he's come to West Virginia. I'm like, that dude can ball. There's guys in the MAC that can play. But what happens is once you start getting down into their 2s, in some cases their 3s, that's where issues start to arise. So the sooner in the football game we might be in position to do that, the better served we're going to be against a completely retooled defense, which I'm not so sure it's in the same place that it was a year ago with that personnel turnover.
No.
They missed 5 tackles against Rutgers. Rutgers can run the football. Rutgers has some skill guys, no doubt about it. So they got big boys on offense. Look, they might go 5-7 in the Big Ten. I have no idea, but they're legit with some players that can produce on offense. So there were times that Ohio struggled against them. They allowed Ohio defensively 140 yards after contact. That was the most in the MAC. Of course, they were probably playing the best offense out of MAC competition. 3.9 yards per carry was the average after contact, worse than the MAC. That was 7th worst in the country. There's a metric that Sports Info Solutions calls a boom percentage. And basically, that's the percentage that the offense has a successful play in the run game on the offense. Well, Rutgers offensively against Ohio had this would have been the worst in the MAC, 19.4%, which was 7th worst in the FBS. So they struggled trying to slow down and contain this Rutgers run game. Now, one of the things they wanted to do going into this game, it was very obvious that they wanted to pressure Rutgers when throwing the football. They dialed pressure up at a rate against Rutgers that was atypical for them. Their blitz rate last year was about 1-4, about 26% of the time. That put them in the middle of the country, 64th among FBS teams. Against Rutgers, their blitz rate was 59%, second highest in the country last week. So now the question is that a one-off because of what they game planned for against Rutgers? Or with this new personnel in so many parts, especially in their front seven, is that kind of the new normal, tweaking toward more pressure, or at least higher than the 26% that they showed last year, and they won't be quite as conservative? We'll find out. But the pressure percentage against Rutgers was the best in the MAC. They did a good job of affecting him. It just didn't result in as many adverse plays for the Rutgers offense as they would have hoped. Now, here's the other thing. Ohio faced just 60 snaps versus Rutgers. The Bobcats offense last year was 9th in the country in time of possession. And what that did was protected the defense. The defense faced just 62 snaps a game last year. So they were kind of like West Virginia like. You know how Neil tried to protect our defense? Our defense only faced 64 snaps. So Ohio defensively is accustomed to that. Brian Smith calls his game typically like that to protect his defense. Only 3 times last year did they face snap counts that even got into the 70s. So what Rich is going to try and do to them is very irregular. They're not used to seeing that, especially if you get humming and it starts working, because they're used to facing minimal snap counts and getting off the field. And we talked about it earlier. What's the issue? What's their biggest concern? Depth. Well, when you're only facing 62 snaps a game, your depth isn't often tested. We always talk about that with the academy schools. The academy schools lack great depth. Well, they play keep away with those option offenses and only face 60 defensive snaps a game, so you can never get to Army's depth or Navy's depth or Air Force's depth. That's kind of the same approach that Ohio plays, and especially against these larger schools, it makes great sense. But what we do offensively could be a dagger straight to the heart of that approach if we don't have self-inflicted mistakes. We could take care of business and do so early and make them really reaching and gasping for air. Now, they lead the MAC and are number 2 nationally in third down defense. This is where this gets funny. Because against Rutgers was 1 for 10 on third down. Good news, right? Until you continue and discover Rutgers was 5 for 5 on fourth down. Yes. So in transition downs, they struggled. Otherwise, they would have won that football game. If they got to stop on the 4th and 2 that we talked about in the third quarter, if they got to stop on the 4th and 7 that Schuyler talked about earlier, they win that football game. They couldn't get Rutgers off the field. But again, they went into the game with an obvious emphasis on pressuring the passer. They did. It just wasn't quite enough. But so that's what I got there. I'm going to finish up with some film notes after you guys give me your comments and an overview on the West Virginia offense, which I haven't even mentioned. I've only talked about the Bobcats defense. Let's talk some West Virginia offense and personnel. How's it plug in? What are you looking at? What are you looking for? And then we'll get into some film notes.
Well, let's start. Where do we start? I guess. I mean, I didn't catch any of the third quarter. I got swamped Went down to say hi to some guys on the field, and I came back up, and literally the entire section, I signed autographs for the entire third quarter. It was crazy.
Man of the
Which
people.
was like our best.
Popular guy.
Yeah, it was like our best deal. So I had to rewatch that. But some things that I had made a comment, or actually I had a listener of the podcast reach out to me on Twitter, and I asked a question to Jed during the week. Who of the non-disclosed people, in the offense, not the Jaheim's and the Nikos, was going to be the guy. And Jed had mentioned Cam Vaughn, who had an absolute, stellar day. Would love to see, the ball, obviously him build on that as well, right? Because that only helps out. But I thought something interesting about our run game was, um, and I believe I heard this on, I was listening to Tony and the boys. Was it 80 something percent or 88% of yards after contact for Jaheim during the game? Was that something that's
yeah? And
sounds about right?
He had
Yeah.
93. Yeah,
it was something crazy like that. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Would love to see that get going. I think that's something we really need to establish. I think that's something we can establish against Ohio. Their defensive line looked a little porous at times, and allowed for Rutgers to pile up some yards. So, hint, hint, that's also something I will be using for my suggestion on what team is going to be the rushing team this year, or this week. So I'm looking forward to the run game and seeing what we can really build off of last week.
Yeah, well said. I'm with you, Big O. I think Cam Vaughn's a great shout there. This one's a little low hanging fruit, and you guys have alluded to it, but I want to see some of the procedural stuff, some of the penalties on the offense cleaned up. Obviously, you cannot have 4 turnovers. I mean, that is Captain Obvious. I think we can all agree if they have 4 turnovers in any of these other games, heck, if they have 3 turnovers in any of these other games, yeah, it's going to be very difficult to win, and we're most likely going to take a big L. So on the road, listen, starts are always important, and good opening possessions for both the offense and the defense in terms of the start last week against RMU, but then a little bit of a mixed bag from the offense. Guys, it's going to be an interesting environment there in Athens, right? It's 40,000 people, right? Smaller, but at the same time, more intimate stadium as well.
24.
Sorry, 24. Okay, for some reason I thought it was closer to 40, but 24.
It's slightly bigger than the Frisco soccer stadium for the bowl game. Sorry to interrupt, Wes, but yeah, it's supposed to be the largest crowd in the history of Eden Stadium. Yeah,
largest crowd in the history of their stadium. Again, they just got Iowa State there a couple years ago. Like those more intimate on-campus venues, man. You get in there and the crowd is right on top of you, and yeah, there's going to be a ton of WVU fans there, no doubt. But I think, man, if the offense can jump out, score a touchdown early, maybe have another long drive, all of a sudden you've got 10 points or 14 points on the board in the first quarter. That defense is breathing heavy. The offense is thinking, man, we're going to have to score 30 some plus points again, just like we did out in Piscataway last week to stay in this one. And maybe some of that, home opener against a power opponent, coming off their best season in program history, maybe some of that juice, you can zap some of that out of there as well too. I think all of that's going to be very important for the offense.
I've got my eyes on some guys. I've got my eyes on some guys that maybe aren't the headliners, but I think it's going to take some of these guys to get to where you want it to be at the end result on Saturday. Like Sincere Bowers, I mean, the way he busted free for that one big long, was a 26, 28-yard run. He showed some flash. Man Singleton, I think, is going to be more involved. Rodney Gallagher, the slot's got to have a big game. But maybe even like Ty Edwards, the big back who didn't get a whole lot of action this week. Maybe another week of practice gets him more ready to go in some short yardage goal line situations, and maybe 4th and shorts. And Jed, this is where I think you kind of go on the fourth down situations, and you want to get, if you want to get to your tempo and you really want to get them sucking air by the end of the second quarter. I mean, if you got some fourth and manageable situations within reason, obviously not on your own 5-yard line, but if you got some fourth and manageable situations, I wouldn't be shocked if this is a game where Rich Rod says, the health, let's go, let's try to get to that depth and see what we can do. I mean, Rutgers had a lot of success. Jed, I don't know if you have the numbers on the fourth down and distances, but I know you said 4th and 2. We had the 4th and 7. It felt like a lot of those fourth downs were not gimmies. They were very earned fourth downs. It felt like fourth and medium on a lot of those.
Rich has a rule. First, answer Owen's question. Owen, to your point, 83 of 93 yards after contact for Jaheim. As a team, 222 of 390 plus yards after contact. So well done. And but yeah, Rich has a rule, and he's always had this rule, at least since I played for him. You get inside the 40, and it is a regular down and distance. It's not 4th and 26. The world's going to end before he doesn't go for it. He's going for it. Okay. And I remember the first time this happened. This wasn't a normal down distance. We were playing a game my first year with him in 91. And we got to like the 38, and we had a 4th and 18. I remember it was 4th and 18. And so I go to trot off the field, and he's signaling a play in. Oh, he's signaling rip 63. Okay. And the F's check releasing on a spot route. So he wasn't going to go out because they were going to pressure. But it was 4 verticals. And I thought, I guess we're doing this. All right. So we lined up. They went some kind of, I'm trying to remember, I think it was a 1 high. The safety floated toward our slot, left the backside, the H up to beat the backer. Back then it was an actual backer. And I threw it to him up the seam. He jumps near and catches it on the 15, first down. You talk about a gut punch to that defense. They're like, dude, we're supposed to have the ball back. What are you doing going for this? Rich does that. He will not punt. If it's inside the 40, unless it's 4th and very long, and back then he would even do that, 4th and very long, he's going for it. If it's a normal down and distance, he will not punt, period. Not inside the 40. And typically across the 50, like you saw Saturday, he's going to go. But that's going to come to the fore. Possessions are going to matter in a game like this. So if we can take advantage of a defense that's struggling after going 5 for 5, those types of things are going to matter, right? So, but again, some of the things that I'm watching on tape, they got size on the back end. They got size at safety. They have some physicality back here. I appreciated some of what those safeties were doing. Now, we'll get into this in a minute, but remember, Cam Vaughn had the biggest game of his career in the bowl game against this defense. And in large measure, this secondary is back intact. A lot of those guys are back. And it's fun to look at the individual matchups Cam had against their returning defensive backs in that bowl game. He had 9 catches for $183 in that bowl game against them. One of them was a 75-yard touchdown or a slant where he beat the corner on an RPO and just toasted him. So he went against Tank Pearson, which was a corner, who's still there. Adonis Williams, their safety, big safety. Michael Mack, their corner. All told against them in the bowl game, he was targeted 14 times, 9 catches, 183 yards, and a touchdown. But 75 yards on that RPO. And what was interesting about that, Owen, I liked how they did that. They motioned the trips, singling Cam up backside. Now, I didn't mention this yet, but Ohio has this thing they'll do. They'll spin their coverage, we call it. Some people call it a banjo. And when you motion to trips, they spin one safety down to the strength and the other safety kicks back into deep middle, or whatever configuration of coverage they're going to end up in. But they spin their coverage. So Jax recognized they were going to do this. So they motioned to single Cam Vaughn up backside and RPO'd off of it. So as they spun their coverage, that singled him up. That safety, meanwhile, should have been more mindful of the boundary than he was. So here comes Tyler Huff off the RPO, and he's reading it. He's like, you big dum-dum, you left that corner singled. Wham, hits the slant. Free safety can't do anything about it because he over-adjusted to the field, to the trip side. 75 yards, Cam Vaughn outruns everybody. But it was fun to watch. They singled up Cam Vaughn on the other corner, and he beat him on a double move later in the game. For a big chunk play. So he made some things happen. There were things that were left on the table. Again, you heard both staffs. I heard Brian Smith at Ohio talk about it, and I heard Rich talk about it. Look, there are certain things you can glean in this imperfect world from that Jack State Ohio bowl matchup, even though it's not truly what's going to be on one side versus the other on Saturday. There are some parallels and some holdover. But one of the things I saw was they ran a switch route in the bowl game, Owen, and it was like out of the tight end was in a wing, and he was the guy running the rail to the boundary. And what they did was Tyler Huff. A switch route is a slant and go by the outside receiver, and the inside receiver is basically running an out and up, a wheel route. And you read that flat player. Well, Tyler Huff hit the split end up the hash on the sluggo and made a great play, and they got a nice completion. But on the play, I couldn't help but notice both wheel routes on the out and up were open on the switch route. So I would imagine if you're sitting there watching tape and studying game planning, look, every coach in America sees what I'm saying. There's no secrets here, okay? It's not like, oh no, now they know what we're looking for. Every coach in America is looking at the same things I'm looking at. Our coaches, Ohio's coaches, everybody's coaches. There's no secrets anywhere. Even front cover 3 to start the game versus Rutgers, but they'll move into some different things. Rutgers did get some push, broke some tackles. But they're missing those top tacklers and those war daddies. Rutgers that I talked about last year, Rutgers out of 147 yards Rutgers had, here's one for you, Owen, 140 of it were after contact against this OU defense. So they struggled to get Rutgers to the ground. One of the edge guys I thought was they got 2 edge guys, 16 and 12. One of them I thought was kind of slow off the ball, but the other one's a handful. And not only that, he's tenacious. You better lock onto him and stay there. Because he had a big sack. They max protected and tried to take a shot play, and 12 just shook loose of that tackle's block and made a sack, and it was a big play for him. They showed some too high pressure. They dropped the boundary safety. One of the things they'll do, get these safeties very, very active, tilted downhill, triggered immediately at the snap to add numbers to the box and run fit. And that's, I would imagine, something we're going to see against our run game. So it's going to be incumbent upon us to take advantage of those single coverage opportunities on the perimeter, whether it's Cam Vaughn again, whether it's Jaden Bray. You're going to have some single coverage opportunities. And there are times they get back into a 3rd and long, they'll drop 8 and just try and rally to the football. A couple of times Rutgers was smart about it and picked up 12 yards on a 3rd and long. So you would see some of those things happen. But defensively, I saw some twists and some stunts. Again, I'm not going to read through all this, just some of the high points. But, they had Rutgers had an inside zone on the cutback going. They had a big play against a 6-man pressure with blitzes. Ohio U tried to come out and man-free cover 1 and try to pressure them, but they read the cutback and bounced it. So these are all just different things that I see from an opportunity standpoint. But they get those safeties very active. Again, those safeties have some size, and they're a force in the run game when they have those run fits. They're going to be playing downhill and trying to do some things against our run game. So I think one of the critical pieces is going to be making plays on the perimeter when they give us the opportunity to do so and winning some of those 50-50 balls. Cam Vaughn, had his way with these guys on the back end of the bowl game. Now he has some help. He's showing up with Jaden Bray and the rest of his crew. So let's see if he can do the same type of thing, or that West Virginia receiving core at large can. Let's get that run game going, hurt them with some tempo, get into their depth. But also, I wouldn't mind some shot plays against that defense once they start tilting downhill to try and outnumber us in the run game.
Well said, fellas. There you go. There's a Bobcat preview as we get ready for week number 2.
Blocked punt, Wes.
Don't
forget the blocked punt.
Now you're speaking my language. That would go a long way. A couple turnovers from the defense, big play by the special teams, and we'll be cooking with some gas. Gentlemen, as we start to get towards the end of proceedings here, I do believe, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but all we have left is our weekly Big 12 Pick'em.
We do. We'll get out of here quickly. Let's close Ohio. You remember, Brian Smith tells his team in these games against these big schools, these games are won in the 4th quarter. He preaches that and preaches that and preaches that. So expect nothing less on Saturday. Let's look at, first of all, unless you're going to let me skip through it and not have to look at it, how it shook out last week from our standings.
Oh, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Yeah, someone was doing a lot of trash talking, I say.
Yeah, the football gods heard me. Let's start. Okay. Cincinnati offensively, who I picked to throw for the most yards, came out like the forward pass wasn't invented yet, and it was 1903. So there's 16 teams in the Big 12. I think they finished 38th in passing yards in the Big 12.
39.
16 teams, 39th.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Owen, you picked West Virginia. West Virginia ran for 393, second most in the Big 12. BYU 468. Owen, you get 4 points. 4 points. Good way to start the season. Wes, you picked West Virginia. But for the Houston Cougars and BYU, who both allowed the opposition, shut them out, I guess.
Tough week.
Yeah, West Virginia just allowed 3. You get 3 points. So you were finished in third. Schuyler, this was kind of funny, actually. You had a rain delay in your game and a lightning delay, some craziness going on there. Phil Steele was even making fun of their opponent when we had him on the show Thursday. Schuyler picked Texas Tech to score the most points of the week. Almost. They scored 67. Most weeks you got a winner, but BYU was 69. So you get 4. So
nice.
I'll tell you what, it's a two-way tie, Owen and Schuyler. So you guys come up with who you want to block. You get to block me or Wes, one of us.
You have to pick a specific game that we can't pick, right?
No, you can't. You can't pick 2 teams. So, no.
Maybe we should put the double whammy on Jed here. Really bury him in the hole.
What are you thinking, Sky? I'll go with whatever you think.
I like.
Yeah, let's bury Jed here. Let's see if we can get Jed buried.
I have no idea who I'm thinking about in this. I promise you.
Oh, he promises you.
Who do you think he's going to pick, Big O?
Yes, I'm sitting here at 0. You're so scared of me. That's a sign of respect. I mean, West is the model of consistency in this game, and he's right on your heels, and you're ignoring him.
You see what he's trying to do there, Sky. He's trying to do the politician thing.
And you see what Wes is trying to do there. He's trying to politician back at me. Yeah.
You can't BS a BSer, baby.
I'd say the Colorado game. I mean, I know they haven't gotten much off in the air, but that they're playing Delaware. I mean, that's the weakest opponent I can see.
All right, so we'll roll with that. I'll guess.
Well, I guess Arizona's going against Webb. I mean, that might be one too. UCF. I don't know, dude. What do you think?
We can roll with Colorado.
All right.
Okay, you're blocking me, so I'll go first.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Please don't pick Iowa State.
I'm going to take the Fighting Jake Spavittles against SMU.
Okay.
Skillet.
Okay.
Baylor against SMU to throw for the most yards in the Big 12. And I'm not going to give any analysis. I'm just guessing. All right, there. Maybe I have a chance. Analysis crushes you every time. So, Owen, rush offense. What you got?
Oh, man. I'm probably going UCF.
UCF? Okay. I'm going to write that down. UCF. I'll write them down as we go. UCF. Okay. And let me see here. I'm going through this. Man, there's a lot of games this week. There's so many that if you notice, I'm giving Phil a break. It's like some
he'd be on there with us for 3 hours.
Yeah. Okay, Wes, what you got scoring offense?
Gentlemen, scoring offense. No, sorry, I'm defense. Right? Yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say, wait a second, wait, huh?
I can't multitask. I'm trying to write when we do this. I can't do that.
This is kind of a low-hanging fruit week for me. There's a lot of, Big 12 teams against FCS and lower G5. I'm going to go Arizona, though, at home, nighttime game against Weber State. The Wildcats, well, I guess they're both Wildcats, but
that's a bad omen.
The lesser Wildcats really struggled last week, and now I know Arizona is not in the best place, but at home, under the lights, against a much lesser opponent. I'll take the Arizona Wildcats as my defense of the week.
I think it's Weber State.
It is Weber State. You're right. I realized that after I
think
said
Russ
it. It's not
Hoge
Chris
used to coach
Weber.
Weber State.
Ross Hoge. All right, that's it. Cut the podcast. Boom.
Sky, who you got?
Oh, geez. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we'll go with Texas Tech again. They got Kent State, who just squeaked by Merrimack last week. So Kent State's traditionally one of the worst teams in college football. So wreck them.
Okay. All right. So we have the tweet that is pinned on the In the Gun podcast Twitter account, X account. And you can take part in this too. Just like last year, we forgot to do that last week because that's how tight of a ship we run. But fans, give us your picks: top passing offense, rushing offense, scoring defense, and scoring offense. And you can do so on that tweet. Just go to that Google link that's attached to the pinned tweet at In the Gun Podcast on X. Make your picks. But again, take a tip from Yup Yup Man, and please do not pick a team that's not playing in a given week. Make sure your team is playing, and that we warn you on there. That's point number one. And the last thing, this is a tradition to close out the show. We need our 1965 book exchange question of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, we got 360 something comments last
I know, that was
week.
awesome.
It was off the hook.
Make it 700 this week.
We are going to give away, and this is authentic, it's not a replica, it's a real helmet. 1965 throwback helmet, courtesy of the book exchange. We're going to have a giveaway. All you need to do to take part in the giveaway, to get your lottery tickets, and you can get 3 new tickets each week, is guess 3 times in the comment section, not one comment with 3 guesses, 3 separate comments to clarify. 1, 2, and 3. You get 3 chances to get 3 new tickets in the lottery each week. Just by answering the comment section, please do so. Here's your question. I'm going to ask these 3 gentlemen first. West Virginia at Ohio U on Saturday. The game's leading rusher will be Jaheim White. He doesn't count. So who outside of Jaheim White, let's assume, first of all, let's hope he is. I don't know that he will be. Let's hope he is. It's just everybody would guess Jaheim if I said that. So
between both teams,
who
correct?
is your choice? What's that?
Between both teams.
Either team.
Just, okay.
Both teams.
Nico Markiel, final answer.
Nico, okay.
He's going to bust a big one. He's going to have like a 40, 50-yard touchdown run, and that's going to tilt the scales in his favor.
You guys get 1 guess, but again, in the comment section, you get 3 guesses. Don't put 1 comment with 3 answers. Please put 3 comments to get all 3 tickets. So
I'll go sincere.
Okay, Sky, you go.
I'll go sincere.
Sincere? Okay. Sincerely yours. All right.
I'm going to say Cam Vaughn on the reverse, dude.
Okay. That's outside the box. All right.
Well, hold up. Is technically, if we run a bubble, is that a run?
No, it's a pass.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good with the reverse then. I'm saying I'm calling the play, dude.
A jet sweep is a completion.
Jet sweep or something like that. Jet
Zone
sweep
ain't one of those pop passes.
It's a pass.
Huh?
A jet sweep's a pass.
No way, really?
Trust me, it was my favorite pass in the world when I saw Chris George take it 75 yards for a touchdown every time I flip it to him 3 feet away. Yeah.
So now I'm starting to see where Jed got all the yards from.
It's not hard. Trust me. Bubble screens and jet sweeps. That's it. It's not hard. Quarterback's best friend. You want to revise your answer?
I'm still going with him. I think he's getting reversed this week.
Okay. All right. And he might surface again with people getting 3 guesses. We had some interesting answers. Who would have guessed last week? We all said Landon Livingston. First of all, he had to miss that 1 snap, which knocked him out of the 5-way tie at the top. We had 61 guys get 5 snaps. One of them was Nico. And there were some guys in the comments who picked Nico, some guys and gals. Nico was actually one of the 5. And the 5-way tie for the team lead was 61. Fred Perry led the defense with 39, but there were 5 different guys on offense that led the team with 61. So leave 3 different comments in the comment section. You can say, here's my first choice, my second choice, my third choice. Do it in 3 different comments. You guys did a great job, our listeners and our viewers last week. We were flooded with comments and follows, which that's the other caveat. You had to be subscribed to the podcast, which is easier than it's ever been. Right in that lower corner of the screen, you see right now as I'm speaking, the YouTube logo. Click on it. You'll see something pop up that says subscribe. That's all you got to do. Hit it. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you are. Otherwise, you can't win the helmet. That's all you got to do. Guess 3 times each week, win 3 lottery tickets. You're part of it. And somebody's going to get a pretty badass helmet when we give that thing away.
I love it. I'm jealous. I saw those helmets when I was at the Book Exchange. You know, they've got all the helmets at the Book Exchange. But they've got those new ones, the big authentic ones, the big replica ones, which are pretty much the authentic ones. You just can't actually wear them in a collision, right? And then the little mini desk helmets as well too. And man, those things are sharp. Man, those things pop. Can't wait to see them in the stadium at some point this season, and can't wait to give one of those away to one of our loyal listeners, followers, watchers here on In the Gun. But that will do it for this edition of your new favorite WVU football podcast. So for our A1 Day 1, Sean Big Daddy Merinar, the co-host, producer, Mr. Do-It-All, Schuyler Callihan, the barbecue and beer truck down the sideline, Big Owen Schmitt.
Ribs this
hype,
week.
Rib extraordinaire. Hype video. That's after we win in Athens, Ohio. We're going to bomb south for a couple hours and all go down to St. Louis and get some ribs with Big O to celebrate. And of course,
show.
Of course, the signal caller. Check him out on the sidelines there in Athens, Jed Drenning. I am Wes Uhler. The one thing that we ask of you, other than getting involved with our ITG Pick'em and our book exchange competition, is to be in here and tell in here about your new favorite WVU football podcast. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. You've been In the Gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.